go to Kempton Park. We've got 4 races from Kempton to preview for you. And the first of them is the Adonis, Scriptwriter 3.0, Nusret 5.0, Rare Middleton 5.0, Perseus Way 8.5, bigger prices, the rest. Come in, Dan, overall.
Yeah, and I think we rarely agree on this show, I think, Tom, but I think we actually do this time. And I'm very much in favour of Scriptwriter here. I think I was very keen on Comfort Zone when he won at Cheltenham last time. They were very close, to be fair. Like, that could have gone either way, realistically speaking. And I remember fondly, I went to the winners' enclosure to clap in Comfort Zone. It was the best bet on this podcast, let me just remind everyone. But I remember seeing distinctly Milton Harris looked absolutely distraught that Scriptwriter got beat. And I think, Tom, you went up to him and he was not best pleased, shall we just say that.
My best bet was, do you remember what my best bet was?
I can't. Go on, hit me.
It was Scriptwriter, or it was my other
Beautiful.
Bet.
Oh, that makes it even better.
We went head to head in the race, and I thought, here he comes, and your horse battled on a bit. So what Milton said was that he said he can't hit the front too soon, and he said we'll take that horse on in March and we'll finish ahead of it. But fair enough. But he's running again. Yeah, go on. I'll let you finish up your case, and then I'll add on some pointless bits afterwards.
Well, I think that was a good performance, to be fair. I mean, I think that could have gone either way, realistically speaking. And I think they're very evenly matched. But I think by some distance, he's the best British juvenile we've seen. I think anything really is come close to him. And I can definitely see a reality where he runs respectively in the Triumph. I don't think he'll get anywhere near the Willie Mullins trio. But this is a far more winnable race. So I love the way they both pulled clear the last day at Cheltenham. Obviously, on a line through the likes of through Comfort Zone, Nurser is a threat to Scriptwriter. But I just feel that Scriptwriter still has a bit more to come. Obviously, I know the stuff about him hitting the front too soon has been talked about. I'm not sure how much credence there is to that, but I do like him a lot. He travels very well. He jumps well. And I think this is just kind of the race he's very much up to winning. And I'm not really too worried about him defying a penalty. And given that Milton Harris won this last year with a horse in Night Salute, who apparently Scriptwriter is fairly much better than, I think he'll take some beating here.
Yeah. Well, Night Salute managed to win that Cheltenham race, didn't he? The only thing I'll add, which I wouldn't say on TV, but I feel I can say it to a smaller audience on a podcast, was I said to Milton off air, I was like, well, did the saddle slip? And he just went, no, that's just Paddy. And then he went, to be fair, it was quite tiny for him. It's like, that's perfect. He travelled like the winner, and he bumped into a good horse. He bumped into a Grade 2 winner, didn't he? Who was battle hardened. So yeah, I'm surprised he's as big as he is. 2.0. I thought he'd been near even money. There you are. 3.0. Thought he'd been near 2.0. Right, Dan Hussey, come in.
Yeah, like I agree with a lot what you guys said, and I came into the race wanting to back Scriptwriter, if that makes sense, because I've always been a fan of the horse, even the way he went on the flat and won there as well. But the more I looked at the race, I kind of came down on Rare Middleton for Paul Nicholls. This horse won a 11% maiden on the flat before joining the Nicholls stable, and look, he was 2-5, so what's that, 1.4 for Matchbook when he won the maiden hurdle in Taunton versus older horses. And look, it was just the comments from Paul Nicholls after the race. He's had the horse, I think, 6 weeks, so he normally wouldn't run the horse with that length of time in the yard, but he gave him a go. He said he's going to prove a ton, and even then he mentioned the Adonis. So look, he also touched on the ground, so it was soft ground, and Taunton's going to be better ground on Saturdays. And I just thought at the prices he's in around, what price did you say he was, Tom? He's around 4.5, 5.0. I just thought he was a tad overpriced against Scriptwriter, who I think is definitely the most likely winner and most solid in the race. But I just thought at a price, Rare Middleton could give him a run for his money.
And Charlie, who do you fancy?
Yeah, I've gone down with Perseus Way for Gary and Jamie Moore. You know, as in again, he wasn't beat far by Scriptwriter on Hurdle's debut at Cheltenham, and he sort of galloped through most of the flights and seemed very much like a horse as a work in progress. Ran well behind Comfort Zone at Chepstow, and then won nicely at Huntingdon the other day. And I think he jumped better as well there, maybe for the first time. And again, it's just a price-related thing. I think he gets £2 off Scriptwriter on Saturday, and he wasn't beat over far by him at Cheltenham on Hurdle's debut. I think his horse is improving with experience, and I thought 7.0 was too big in this sort of race. And for all that I agree with you guys at Scriptwriter, I just thought at treble the price, I'm going to come down with Perseus Way.
Okay, a couple of shouts for scriptwriter Rev Middleton and Perseus Way going up in the Kempton opener. We'll keep going with Kempton, then we'll do the Ida, and then we'll come back to 5 furlongs at Lingfield. On we go then with Kempton Park. So this is the 225. It's the Pendle Novices Chase. Prices as follows: with Boot Hill 2.75. That's all right, Gino 4.33. Solo 4.5. Tweed Skirt 6.5. JJ Riley 15.0. I'm a massive Boot Hill fan, Dan, overall, and I was all out to put him up, and then I don't know, in the end I went elsewhere. But what do you like about the favourite?
It's weird. I was almost the other way around. Like, I came into this race thinking I wanted to take him on, but the more I looked through it, I just didn't think anything was maybe up to actually challenging him. He's clearly achieved the most of these. I know he's got a conceded penalty as a result of that, but there's plenty of upside to him still, I think, over this trip. Like, obviously, he's been over 2 miles pretty much exclusively over his chasing career, but has run over 2.5 and nearly 3 miles over hurdles. You look at his pedigrees, he's by presenting out of a half. There's a couple of 3 mile plus winners. So that would bode encouragement that for him having no problem over this 2.5. And I think Kempton 2.5, good ground. I think that might be about ideal for him at this stage. Like, he was a strong stayer when he beat Auckland Risk over 2 miles here a few months ago. He didn't exactly look short of stamina in certain instances previously. I just think in a fairly weakish 2 mile novice chase division, he's been able to do pretty well over that trip. But I think stepping up will probably unlock a bit more improvement in him. The strength of his form, I think, is above and beyond a few of these. And while I respect the likes of Solo, given obviously Paul Nicholls' extraordinary record in this race, That's the Right Gino, I think, has got a race in him, probably a handicap maybe in time. I just think Boot Hill's got a lot going for him and he's achieved the most. And I think he's a reasonable enough price as well at 2.75 in a fairly small field.
Okay, Charlie?
I mean, I agree with all of that completely. And I think Boot Hill is the most likely the winner. And I don't think he lost that much behind Tommy's Oscar the last at Doncaster. But I kind of felt like Solo had been beaten handicaps. That's All Right Gino, a bit the same. And again, much as this filly got beat last time, Tweed Skirt behind Jeremy's Flame at Huntingdon, she was just inclined to over race again. And it does seem to be a slight habit about her. But, you know, she's rated 136. I think she's getting £12 off Boot Hill, which at the weights brings them pretty close together. And again, she's sort of 7.0. So, you know, she's a good deal bigger. And I just couldn't really bring myself to back Boot Hill at 2.0 or 2.5. And I wanted something at a bit more juicy odds. And again, like Dan overall said, I think when you go through it, there's not a huge amount of opposition really credible. But I think this filly does have more improvement in her. And potentially, I do think she's a black type horse. And at 6.0, it's a chance I'm willing to take in a small field with question marks over a few.
Yeah, I'm there again on the official ratings. I thought it was a bit too much in the prices between Tweed Skirt and Boot Hill. She was so impressive at Kempton when, admittedly, a lot of horses were winning quite. Some horses were handling conditions that day, and some weren't. Some were they finished quite strung out. I think it was quite holding on the day, and then she went on to win Canton and won nicely. And then that was really disappointing last time. So, you know, a horse like Boot Hill in some ways might just help her, just kicking on with things and meaning that she settles. But for all she couldn't muster it against her own sex last time, I thought, given that she was getting a bit of weight, I think she's definitely better than she showed last time. I was taken with the course distance win. I'll chance her at the prices. And Dan Hussey.
Yeah, so I've landed on Solo for this one, and I got down a rabbit hole of rewatching the old Triumph Hurdle. The Goshen's Triumph Hurdle, which we touched on in the podcast. For listeners that didn't know, I had Goshen backed in November after he won, I think, at Fontwell at 25-1 for the Triumph Hurdle. So I was in the beautiful member spot that Dan knows in that stand, right in line with the final hurdle when he unseated the rider. So it was a lot to. I
At least
thought
you
I was
got over it, mate.
Yeah, I did. I was over it until I watched it back this morning.
He was over it too, to be fair. He was, and then he was about 3 strides over it, wasn't he? Bless him.
Yeah. Anyway, so
you would have won then. You'd have won a good bit then.
Yeah, decent amount. I'll tell you the stage.
We shouldn't dwell on it. Sorry.
No, we shouldn't dwell on it. Yeah, but the point I was getting at, Solo went off a 5.0 shot in that Triumph, which I found amazing, to be honest with you, and just finished behind a Wave of the Sea, who was obviously a Leopardstown expert. So interesting, some decent horses that came out of that Triumph. albeit it wasn't the strongest in the world, although All Mankind was there. But yeah, this is a horse that's taken a while to get going, I guess, post the Triumph Hurdle. But I just think I've been impressed with it over the last couple of starts. I just think he's getting better over fences. He's got form behind Thunder Rock and Balco Coastal. That form's obviously behind Jerry Colomb in the Scilly Isles. I think that is pretty good form. I know he was well beaten on both times, but I just think they'll have freshen him up from Christmas. He likes the track. He's also getting £5 off the favourite here as well. I don't think that should be forgotten. So while I do like Boot Hill as a horse, and I think he is probably, again, the most likely winner, you're getting a decent enough price if you want to play winner place or just win on solo here. So I think I'm going to take a bit of a chance on him.
Solo 4.5. The Coral Trophy is next up. Premier Handicap 3 o'clock. Ansam is 6.0 last time out winner here. Cap du Nord also last time out winner. Christian Williams back amongst the winner 6.0. St Calvados 6.5. Our Power 9.0. Then we're into the double figures. Any agreement here? No, there's a couple with Killer Clown. Dan Hussey, you can come in because you want to stick 2 up.
Yeah, I'll let Charlie make the case for Killer Clown, but I saw a great tweet about course and distance form. This is like, for anyone who loves course and distance form, this race in particular is brilliant because there's so many of these horses that love the track. So yeah, Killer Clown was one I came down at price. I'll let Charlie make the case, but I couldn't really get away from Frodon here. Like, obviously he's getting on a bit, but I don't think his performances when he's on a going day are all that below his best. And his Kempton form's incredible. Obviously, like, he was well beat in the last 2 runnings of the King George. He was still 3rd last Christmas, and then 4th the year before, and won his 3 previous starts in Kempton. So I just think if Brian can get him in a bit of a rhythm, it doesn't necessarily, he has to be up front, up near the front. It doesn't necessarily, he can take a bit of a lead as long as he's getting in a decent jumping rhythm, which I think he does around Kempton. And I just think coming into the turn with those 3 fences to go, I think he'll still be there. And look, there probably are better handicap horses in the race, but I don't know if there's a solid a horse as Frodon at the course and distance. So I'm going to decide with him, and I'll let Charlie make the case for Killer Clown. But again, course and distance form, he stands out as well.
Go on then, Charlie.
Yeah, I mean, that was really like, as in, I just thought it was a race that was quite trappy, you know, especially with the ones that were shorter in the market. And I was going through it looking for an angle, and Killer Clown, like Dan Hussey has said, with the course form, he is basically, I think he's unbeaten around the track. He won there last year off 140. He's only £5 higher now. He disappointed a bit at Newbury in November, but he loves good ground, and he's obviously been freshened up and kept ready for a lucrative spring campaign. And again, I think as well, it's maybe only his 2nd time over 3 mile, which again I don't see as a negative. I think as he's getting older, there's every potential that he'll stay this bit further. And I thought at 17 or 18.0, he was well worth a strong interest for me in this sort of race.
And last thing, just on Killer Clown, Tom, Emma Lavelle has said exactly what Charlie's been saying in terms of the course, loves it around Kempton. They kind of went for the top and didn't quite work. And I'd say this has been a target from a long way out, to be fair. So definitely think it's worth taking a punt at a decent price.
Okay, yeah, he's a fair old price, isn't he? Likes it here. Dan?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we all kind of looked for something at a decent price here. I guess initially what I will say is that the pace angles here, which touches on Frodon, obviously he would be one of them. But Ansam, who got a pretty easy time of it out in front last time out, his favourite for this, I couldn't really touch him at that price, given he's got the likes of Frodon, Bob Hope or No Hope, Killer Kane. There's a few others that all like to make the runner here. So I imagine it's going to be a pretty strong pace. So that's always something to bear in mind. And that kind of brought me to Phlegmatic, who's normally ridden pretty cold. Like, he's a pretty strong stayer, and he was an upwardly mobile sort last season. It just hasn't really happened for him this term. Like, it was an encouraging return over 2.5 at Ascot. He was staying on at the end that day. Again, ridden quite patiently. Disappointing the next 2 times. Kempton over Christmas was poor, but softer ground than he would have liked. Then at Sandown on his last start, he's just never really liked Sandown. You go for his form, he's disappointed all 3 times he's been there. So I'm willing to forgive him those runs. And he looked last season, this is the kind of time of year he came alive. Quicker ground, Kempton specialist. He's 2 wins around this time last year, came at the track. And it's interesting as well that the cheek pieces are on for the first time. Now, Dan Skelton's record with first-time cheek pieces in general is very good, but you look recently, since November, it's 12 runners in first-time cheek pieces, 5 winners, and a further 2 placed. And a few of them have been at decent prices. So it's clearly something that's being used to spark up these horses who may not be performing as they would hope. And I think he certainly is that. He's going to get the pace to aim at. I think he's been quite well backed in the few hours since I looked him up earlier. I think he was like 17.0 earlier. I think he's shortening into about 11.0, 13.0. But I can definitely see a scenario where he's coming in from off the pace and one of the real fast closers towards the end. So at a decent price, he was where I sided.
Okay, there's a nice chat going on between Giles and Peter in the comments section, talking about the ultimate at Cheltenham. It just sums up Cheltenham, really.
Love it.
I know it relates to Frodon, but it's just, that's perfect, isn't it? Talking about where he's going to run at Cheltenham in the ultimate chase. Don't forget our handicap preview will be on Wednesday the 8th. Got that right, Dan Hussey, haven't I?
Wrong. Thursday, March the 9th. So
yeah, I'll edit
that out. I'll edit that out.
That's all right. Yeah. I'm sure what you really want when you're doing the edit is for it to be one smooth thing with no problems.
Yeah, which again, in fairness, most of the podcasts, at least the football and NFL podcasts, seem to go through without a hitch. It always seems like the horse racing podcast.
Good.
I don't know what the difference is there.
Touche.
Shout out, Dan Overall will be Cheltenham Handicaps special. And when I asked Dan to be, he said that is right up my street. So
yeah,
one to tune in for sure.
And Charlie's on this one and on next week's Cheltenham special. So there you go.
Yes, yeah. Busy man, Charlie.
Doubling up.
Oh, that's my fault. No, I muted him. No, I muted him because he's making too much noise when he was moving set there.
I was trying to move, as in I looked like some sort of ridiculous villain there. There was like shadows being cast all over the. Because I had to set this up so quickly because my laptop wouldn't work, and then I put it where I was near a socket because the iPad didn't have much charge on it, and then next thing the sun was going down through the window, and I thought you'd be watching on, Dan Hussey, going, Jesus Christ, what is this idiot doing? Because you could hardly see me.
You were having a rave 1 minute, like it was constant flashing, and then the next I looked, it looked like you were like Emperor Palpatine, like in the shadows. Yeah. It was great. I think I've answered that. Great.
I'm too busy making cases for horses, Charlie, to worry about you. But yeah,
I'm glad that makes me feel better, mate. As long as you're not bothered, I'm fine. Yeah.
You should probably edit all this bit out, really, Dan.
I should, yeah. Just answer Peter's question. So it's Wednesday, the 1st of March. That hasn't changed. But the Cheltenham Handicap Special will be the Thursday, where I think we'll have 5-day decks for the Tuesday and Wednesday. So with Matt Toons.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. All right. I've completely forgotten who's tipped on this race. Oh, I haven't.
We were, but yeah. There you go.
Oh, no, I haven't. I'm putting up St. Calvert. Oh, no, Dan hasn't either. Oh, no, you have. Oh,
yeah.
We are consummate pros, aren't we? We really are.
I'm putting up St. Calvados. I can't remember if I've made the case, but the reason I'm putting up St. Calvados is because ever since he ran in that farce of a race at Ascot, I thought, I wonder if they'll drop him for this shit show of a race. And they did, £4. And I thought, right, we've got to back him for a handicap. He then ran in the Silviniaco Conti, yes, and was dropped another 3. He's just got to be a bet back in a handicap. I thought he might be a bit bigger because he's not exactly in form. But Harry Cobden who was on board for his last win, he wants his sort of ground. He's 154. He's got to be a bet, but I thought he might be a bit bigger. There you go. Dan Overall, have you made a case?
I did indeed. Yep.
Yeah, it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, I know. Really honestly, good. Like I could tell you were hanging on every word, Tom.
I was. Yeah. So I'd edit this bit out, Dan. Right. Let's move on to the Dovecote. Prices as follows: Hansard 2.75, Roubaud 4.0, Imperial Bead 7.0, UK Tango 7.0, Mullenbeg 15. Bigger prices the final pair. I don't know. I've got a very, very tepid opinion that Hansard is just about a bet here, mainly because I've gone right off Roubaud after that performance last time. I know it was fast ground at Newbury. It was technically nigh on firm, wasn't it? But I really fancied him. I thought he'd settle better in a handicap. I know the pace held up well, but they went hard enough. I don't know. Hansard, I think, should be too good for them, and mainly I wanted to be against Roubaud. Charlie Poste.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, I found this a really lukewarm race personally. I can see Hansard is very solid, much as again he's got to step up. I just came down with Roubaud because he's obviously ultimately been very progressive before that disappointing run at Newbury. But again, I'm taking in the fact the ground was very quick. He was still very keen, and he has got the application a hood today, which if that can, on Saturday, if that can help them switch off and race a bit more evenly, find a bit more sort of rhythm and conserve some finishing effort, I do just think he's also enough latent ability to take this out. And like I say, I thought there were question marks over plenty of them, bar the favourite. So I came down with him, but it's a very much tentative choice for me, and it's a race that I probably won't be getting involved in.
Fair enough. And Dan, overall?
Yeah, I agree with what a lot of Charlie said there in terms of the race, probably not inspiring all that much. It's a fairly lukewarm affair, as he said. I think I looked at this tactically, and you look back at the last 6 or 7 winners of this, pretty much all of them were prominent or made all in this. Like, again, on quick ground, Kempton, that tends to be the winning tactics. And I hope they revert to those kind of tactics on You Can Tango, who I just thought price-wise was probably a bit too big relative to the others at the head of the market. And that's probably influenced by the fact he pulled up last time out in the Tolworth. But ultimately, Sandown, testing ground, Kempton, quick ground are extremely contrasting situations. And this is a horse that Ollie said all along wants quicker ground. He's going to get that here. And his form prior to that puts him right up there in terms of what he's achieved. Like his win at Wetherby under a penalty. The second has won twice since, is rated 126. The third's rated 120. And he's probably going to be favourite for the handicap that follows this race, actually, Don Hollow. And then the fourth one, his next 2 starts, is rated 122, and he gave him all penalty. So that was a good run. And then he was second to Cheltenham to Fenacross, who's probably going to run in Supreme. The third then was Springwell Bay, who ultimately we know improved a step up in trip last time out, but is a good horse in his own right. But that kind of form puts You Can Tango right up there. I think a return to positive tactics on better ground is certainly going to suit him. And if they do ride him positively and he's over that Sandown exertion, on form, he doesn't really have anything to find at all. So I just thought he was a bit too big at 7.0.
And Dan Hussey, you agree, plus another?
Yeah, completely agree. I just think you completely put a line through last time out against Tomorrow's soft ground, went off a 41.0 in the end. I just think good ground really will suit You Can Tango. It's a You Can Tango, isn't it? Yeah, You Can Tango.
Yeah.
I pronounced it this morning, but it is You Can Tango. And just one that I said I'd put up. Cave Legend for Chris Gordon. Obviously the trainer has been in great form, like 7 winners from 18 in the last 14 days and 39% strike rate. And this is a horse that started in bumpers this season. And they tried him in Taunton in a maiden hurdle, and just before Christmas didn't run well, freshened him up a bit. And I thought he was pretty impressive last time against a well-back Gary Moore horse. So at a decent price, you're getting double figures. I just think he could be a dangerous one here, Cave Legend. So they're the 2 I'm